Hi there and welcome to Code Framer. In the last video, we understood about the two steps that can be used to write a recursive function. The first step was to write the recursive case, and the second step was to write the base case. In this video, we will have a look at the third step, which we will have to consider while writing a recursive function. In order to understand the third step, we will continue to use the same example of factorial, which we used in the last video. If you haven't seen the last video, then I highly recommend you to watch the last two videos in this section about recursion, and then come to this video for a better and complete understanding of this concept. So having said that, let us move forward. Before jumping into the editor, let us first understand the third step which we will have to follow in order to write a recursive function. The third step is to handle the edge cases in the recursive function. Most of the time, when we write a recursive function, we might be so involved with finding the solution, that we may forget to handle the edge cases. Sometimes failure in edge cases can cause the function to crash or give undesired results. So let us have a look at the factorial function which we wrote in the last video, and try to find out the edge cases that we need to handle in this case. Pause the video for some time, and try to think of the edge cases that can cause this function to fail. Okay, I hope that you would have given it some thought. The edge cases that we need to handle are giving negative inputs or decimal inputs to the function. As you can see in this function, we have created the recursive and the base case to handle positive integer values. But if we pass negative or decimal integers to this function, then it will give us failure. Now let us go to the editor and see how this function behaves when we pass it with negative or decimal values. So first let me pass the input parameter as -5. Now when we execute this function, then as you can see, we are getting maximum recursion depth exceeded. This is because, when input is negative, the else block will be executed, and the same function will be called with even smaller inputs. For example, in this case, since we have passed the input value as -5, when the recursive call is made, it will reduce the value of n by 1, and it will become -6. Due to this, there will not be any end to the recursive calls. And this is why we are getting the error as maximum recursion depth exceeded. Now let us pass a float value as the input parameter to the function. So if we pass 5.5 as the input value, and execute the function, then as you can see, we are again getting the error, maximum recursion depth exceeded. In the case of float, the input value may be reduced by 1, each time the recursive call is made, but it will never be equal to 0 or 1. Due to this, the base case will never be satisfied. Again, this situation will lead us to the same error. As you can see in this example, not considering the edge cases also has the potential to crash the system. So always consider different inputs that can be passed to the recursive function and test the result before concluding the solution. Now let us come to the handling part of these edge cases. We can handle the edge cases in multiple ways, but I will tell you the most simplest way. We can simply write an if condition, where we will return a message as invalid input to the user. So in this case we can write, if n is less than 0, or integer of n is not equal to n, then return invalid input. If you are thinking about integer of n equals n condition, then this is to ensure that the value of n is an integer and not a float. Now if we execute this function with a float value, then as you can see, instead of maximum recursion depth exceeded, we are getting invalid input. Similarly, if we execute the function with a negative value, then also we get the same result as invalid value. But when we execute this function with a positive integer like 5, then as you can see we are getting the desired result. I hope that this is clear. In summary, let us have a look at all the three steps that we can use to write a recursive function. Number 1 is to write the recursive case. While writing this part of the recursive function, you must always establish the behavior of the function. Clearly decide the input that you will be passing, and what output should the function generate. Once that is established, think about the recursive call of the function with different inputs to get the desired result. Once the recursive case is established, now it is the time to go to writing the base case. While writing the base case, you must first decide at which point your function will not need further recursive calls. Once you have established that point, then write a base case to return a value from the base case, so that the earlier recursive calls can use the returned value to generate the desired result. Finally, once the recursive case and the base case are ready, think about the edge cases. While writing the edge case, think about various input values to the function, and check whether those values are handled in the function. If not, then write separate if conditions to handle such input values. With these 3 steps, you can write recursive functions with confidence. I hope that this video was helpful. We will have a look at different examples of recursive problems from the next video. Keep supporting the channel by hitting the like button, sharing the video with other code lovers, and also subscribing to CodeFramer to learn more. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.